Hey guys, I'm back. Did you miss me? I'm sorry, it has been 4 long weeks since I've done one of these. A lot has happened. We have a lot to talk about. I'll try not to let so much time pass from now on because there were a lot of emotions, a lot of moments I needed to talk about, a lot of ups and downs with this last month in med school. The biggest thing we'll talk about here are exams. I've even learned a few things about myself in this process in the last month. So with that being said, let's talk about it. Okay, so when I talked to you guys 4 weeks ago, I started to have the thoughts of med school exams are coming up. It's my first set of exams. And all of us med students are overachievers on some level. To be perfectly honest, I want to be one of the best in my class. So I was like, I'm going to start studying as soon as possible. I'm going to kick these exams out of the water. I want to be top of my class, which I know. Honestly, I do tell myself those are my goals. We'll see if they happen, but that's always what I'm striving for, is to be the best of the best. So while I started to get the idea of, all right, it's time to start going back and reviewing and ready yourselves for these exams, the curriculum was still getting harder. So I don't remember if I talked about this in my last video, but now with like structures lab, for example, our anatomy lab, we've moved on from the muscles of the back to the heart and lungs. Honestly, we walk in there, they just flip the rib cage back and we just look at, we're messing on the insides of these cadavers now. I loved learning about the heart. I'm not gonna lie. I loved the anatomy of it. We didn't really go into physiology, so we didn't really talk too much of the science. We're really just looking at the structural components of the heart, and I loved it. So enough on that. One of the things that I realized as I started to go back and study was that I was not studying very efficiently when I first started med school. So here's another lesson learned. You gotta adapt. So luckily I know what works for me now. It took a lot longer than I wanted it to, but I know what works and I know what doesn't work for the most part. So now I can go into Unit 2 knowing how to approach some of this stuff. Now that we've talked about that though, let's just get right into the exam, because quite literally my entire last month has been centered around med school. I've had very little time for friends, family, personal stuff. I do make a little bit of time every day for it, but if you really want to do well, you have to understand that you need to be devoted your entire day. Your entire life is centered around med school. So yeah, there's that. All right, so just a reminder. So the way that my school does exams, so our whole unit was 2 months long. During exam week, we have a Monday exam, Tuesday exam, and a Wednesday exam. So it's 3 different days. And then we get a 4-day weekend. So let's start with the Monday. It's called a cognitive exam. This is everything that you guys would think of from like a lecture, anything that you've read in textbooks, anything discussed during class. So we have our curriculum, we call it LGS, which is large group. In our curriculum, we get a bunch of stuff assigned to us to read and study up on, and then we come to LGS to discuss this at a higher order discussion. So we kind of come having already prepped the material, and then we put it into perspective with our preceptors and physicians and doctors and whatnot. So that's LGS. So we've had 8 weeks of lectures, 3 lectures a week, 2 hours long each, all went onto this test. And then we also have our what we call small group. So small group is student-led. There's 10 of us in it. We get 2 case studies a week. Like a drug overdose case. We had like an organophosphate poisoning case. We had a dyslipidemia one. So we basically study the heck out of it. It lines up with what we're learning in LGS, and then these concepts are also incorporated onto this cognitive exam as well. So, and then there's also just little tidbits, like for example, our structures lab, it's 4 hours on Thursday. The first hour of that is also a little bit more lecture stuff. Okay, so for the cognitive exam, it was 2 blocks. Each block was like an hour and some change long, and they were anywhere from I think it was like 16 or 17 questions on one, and then 17 on 18 on the other. I can't give you guys any specifics as to what was on the exam. Anything is fair game. They can pull information from any of the stuff I just explained to you guys. And what is kind of intimidating, just because we devoted 2 hours to these certain topics, we can't cover all the topics that were necessarily assigned to us. They cover like the high yield ones, the main concepts, all of those absolutely they touch on and they emphasize. But that doesn't mean that they can't ask a question on a lesser concept or something that was, not as substantial. And it did happen. I'll be honest, it did happen. There were a few things on there that it's like, okay, I did not really expect that to be a question, but I can see why it could be. Anyways, so that just goes to show you that you really need to be on your game. Don't miss anything, you know? And I think that's easier said than done right now with Unit 1 because it was a little all over the place. It was pretty basic, quote unquote. And I know, I just from hearing from some upperclassmen and, you know, second and third years, they have said that the amount of material can be so substantial that you cannot be perfect at everything. There are some times where you're just gonna have to accept that you're not gonna know this as well as you would hope to. This was probably the thing I was the most nervous about though, because there was just anything is fair game over the last 2 months. There was a ton of information. There's like, I think when I counted up, there was like 20 something lectures, like 17 case studies that they could have pulled from, some other stuff from areas, like a lot of material can be on this. So 2 months is a long time to put on one test. In my opinion, I wish it was a little bit shorter, but that's neither here nor there. So anyways, let's take a look at a video. I did record myself right after I finished taking this. I felt pretty good about it, but let's take a look. All right, friends, so I just finished my first day of exams, I should say. I feel okay. I was freaking out this morning, just like my heart was thumping out of my chest. I got a good night's sleep though, so that was good. It might have been the 2 glasses of wine, but that helped me a lot. I don't feel like a complete failure right now. I feel like I knew 90% of the questions like pretty thoroughly, and the other 10% I felt like I could kind of just like justify my answer, BS my way through a little bit. So, okay, so next, I don't really have time to sit on these feelings though. Like I said, I feel good, but I have to move on. I have another big exam tomorrow and Wednesday. So today was probably the biggest chunk of material. Tomorrow's all about like osteopathic medicine, manipulative treatments, and then we actually have like a patient encounter where I gotta do a few things. So I feel pretty confident about that stuff. And then Wednesday's all about anatomy and structures and tagging things and what's this, what's that, what does this structure do, what innervates this and that. So that will be a little bit more challenging. But anyways, I'm gonna go get some Jimmy John's and then I'm gonna bust ass for the next 5 or 6 hours and then go home and watch a bunch of videos that I have on this stuff. So, over now. Okay, so now docs, day number 2, Tuesday. So this was all about everything clinical skills. So there were 2 parts to this. So on one hand, we had a patient encounter, and on the other one, we were performing OMTs. We'll start with the patient encounter. So this one was fun, I thought. So I have been in the medical field for the last 6 years. I was a scribe for a while, and then the last 3 years I did a medical assistant position as well. So you learn a lot with that stuff, especially when you're scribing on that. You're just learning at a really, really fast pace. So we've really only learned certain things when it comes to evaluating a patient, like how do you get a good history? What are all of the elements that you need in a good history? And then we've also learned some different skill sets to engage with our patient. Let's say if they give you some sensitive information, how do you appropriately respond? You know, how do you empathize with them, and how do you kind of get some more information at them in the appropriate way? So we've learned a lot of those different techniques. And then also we've learned how to do basic physical exams. So a basic cardiac exam, pulmonary, HENT, all of those. We've learned how to be, you know, they call it the core exam, but a basic exam. So basically what was expected of us on exam day was you get like 2 minutes to go to your door. It's actually like in a patient clinic. It's pretty cool, honestly. The way that they simulate this. It's a very real environment, and you get 2 minutes to read the prompt on the door. It kind of gives you a summary like this patient's here for XYZ. This is the information you need to know. You need to perform this exam, so they only asked us to perform 1. And then you need to get this vital. So it was all randomly assigned. So you get 3 minutes to read that actually, and then you go into the room, you get 16 minutes with the patient to do your thing. You get the history, perform what you need to perform. When you're done, then you can remove yourself, and this is all video recorded. They watch you, you get feedback on it. And then you get 9 minutes to write up your notes. So you actually had to type up, document what happened. I felt great. I have done that whole documentation piece forever. I have, like, you know, as a medical assistant, you talk to patients and you get this history and you learn how, you know, what pieces of information you need. So I don't know if maybe I got a little too overconfident, because when I walked out of the room, I forgot there was one question I forgot to ask. Which, whatever, it is what it is. You live and you learn. I'll not make that mistake next time. But other than that, I felt really, really confident on that. It'll be very interesting to see though. I wonder if we get to watch our own videos, because I just want to see what my body language looks like in the moment. Because I was a little nervous. Obviously, we're all a little bit nervous on exam day. But anyways, okay. So then the second half of the exam. So this is the osteopathic manipulative treatment. So We've learned a lot of different skills over the last 2 months when it comes to OMT. So this is a part of going to a DO school. You learn all this stuff. So basically what happened is you go into a room and you have a classmate, another med student, and then you guys are partners. So you each get a red folder, you open it up, and you are randomly assigned something over the last 2 months, whether it's like, do these range of motion testing, do this postural examination, do this gait assessment, anything that we have learned they could have assigned. You are either the patient or the physician. So while we're doing this on each other, we have a physician here who's watching us. So it's a little intimidating, I think. I got lucky. I had a good preceptor. They were very calm, demeanor, relaxed, interactive. So I was like, all right. So that really helped me from a testing environment standpoint. You have to speak in layman's terms to the patient, your classmate. So you're speaking to them like the patient. And then you're also speaking in medical terms to the preceptor who's watching you. That way they know you know what you're doing. After that, I felt great on mine. I don't think I made any mistakes, but you never know, right? Though I'll get the feedback here in a couple weeks. So that was day number 2. Overall, it was low stress, but that morning I was panicking. I was just freaking myself out because I was like, oh my gosh, this is 2 months of material. What if I get randomly assigned something I don't feel as comfortable in? So whatever. It is what it is. It's over and done with. I felt good. Okay. So now Wednesday, the last day of exams. Okay guys, so I am about to go walk into my last exam. Well, it's in an hour, so I came a little bit early just to make sure it's okay. You can see the bags under my eyes, so you can imagine how tired I am. I probably have the least amount of anxiety about this one. I am too tired to feel anxious anymore at this point. It's anatomy today. I feel pretty good about it, honestly. I've been studying for this one very cumulatively. Did not do a lot of last minute cramming. Like I slept in this morning until about 8 instead of getting up at 6 like I normally do on Wednesdays. I've been going to bed at a good time every night during this week instead of cramming like I thought I was going to and staying up late. I've just been so darn exhausted. The last 3 weeks I've been going crazy studying for this. I don't think cramming would have done anything more for me at this point. So it is what it is. I think I know enough of this to do well on the exam. Am I gonna get every question right? No. That was probably the hardest thing about studying for exams, was not being able to be perfect at everything, knowing everything. And that's just a reality I have to accept. But anyways, I'm gonna go in, take this, and I'll talk about it later, what I feel like after it's all said and done. So wish me luck, guys, as I finish up my first set of exams. Okay, so a little bit about structures real quick. So this was the 3rd day of exams. This was also a two section kind of deal. So 1 hour was in the cadaver lab. So this was, structures all over the cadaver, all over bones. Things are tagged, things are pinned, and the questions are not straightforward questions. So for example, they could tag a muscle and then they'll ask you a question about the nerve of that muscle. So to get that answer right, you need to know what muscle you're talking about and you need to know what nerve innervates that muscle to even answer the question. They're tough questions. So you basically there were 40 questions. You get a minute and a half at each section, and then the bell dings and you go to the next station and you just rotate every minute and a half. So that's kind of how the structures anatomy piece, or the cadaver lab was structured. And then the other side, this was a computer test now, this one was. So this was all about like histology. Basically, what is this structure under the microscope? What is this cell? What tissue is this? What's the point of this? Where in the body do these tissues lay? How does this process occur? Blah, 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 blah. So any questions like that. And they were a mix of like essay and like straightforward, like short answer questions. So let me show you my reaction to how I felt immediately after finishing my exam. Oh man, I don't even know what to say. It's over. I'm honestly at a loss for words. My brain is dead. I'm tired. I'm gonna go home and chill. Thank God we get 4 days to recuperate. I'm gonna go home, get my life together. I think I'm not doing anything today. I'm just gonna relax, and that's it. I don't have much more to say right now. I'm pretty brain dead. There's just a lot that goes into it. It's just been like 3 weeks of constant studying that has led up to this point, so I'm done. Hallelujah. Let's go. Okay, so this is getting to be a long video, I just realized, so I'll wrap it up here shortly. I just gotta say, I have never ever in my life ever studied for a test like this. Med school, girl, you got me. This was a hard 2 months. I know I can do it. It just took more out of me than I thought it was going to, which is expected. This is med school, for God's sakes. Like, we are here to become physicians and have the ultimate privilege of saving lives. So it shouldn't be easy, right? That's just what I'm gonna keep reminding myself. Next unit is musculoskeletal, like official, like musculoskeletal and ortho. And so we'll see what that's like. I'm a little nervous for it because I think I've said this in my earlier videos. I'm not the biggest fan of orthopedics. It is what it is. There's gonna be other times in med school where I'm not gonna be a fan of what we're learning, but okay. There's more stuff I could talk about, but I'm just gonna cut myself off here because I'll get back in the swing of doing these weekly. That way you guys can see my emotions as I'm going through that, and that way I don't have to spend 20 minutes explaining to you how I felt for the last month. Okay, so I'm gonna hang out with my cat, and I will see everybody else next week. Bye.